Hi guys, I'm the headline act for the Sunday Vanlife Festival, so thanks for coming along to see me. I hope you've all had a wicked weekend. It's our first time at Vanlife Festival and we've loved every minute of it, the atmosphere and the size and everything that's going on has been amazing. So some of you might not recognise me if you have seen the official Vanlife talks that went up on social media. You may be looking for this stunning person here. So I think AI had a bit of a play with my face. And I've had a few people coming over to me saying, do you realise what you look like on the socials? So I thought that would be a great way to start. This is me. And if you've seen the picture of me outside and I've got a fully bald head, that's because I shaved my head at the start of the year to raise some cash to keep the project on the road. So I am Lindsay. I am captain of Bus Different, which is the double-decker bus out in the display field over there. I've been working in special education for 15 years, and through that work I was introduced to the world of neurodiversity and the labels that we hear way more often these days, like ADHD, autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia. When I first started in that line of work 15 years ago, I'd never heard of any of those labels, but through that work I began to realise that I am all of those labels and more. So I was a natural with the students. It was noticed quite quickly and I progressed through that career. I really, really enjoyed it. But as I was going through and realising I related to those labels too, I started to realise that the way they were presented was quite negative. Sorry, I'm not. I just want to dance to that now. But that inspired me to start the platform that we have named A Different Human Design. And that is to reframe ADHD as a different human design. And that's because I believe it's a broad spectrum, not just the negative traits that we see quite regularly portrayed. So I went through mainstream, through primary, through college, developed a real deep interest in the brain, in neurodiversity and how it works, why people kind of behave the way that they do. So this was the platform that we set up. There's A Different Human Design, but then we also launched our podcast, A Different Podcast, and then came along the bus as well. So that also took on that vibe of the different, and it's called Bus Different. I genuinely believe that ADHD is more than the traits that we see regularly advertised. So I've just put some of the other things that you might find. This was through working with class after class after class, and all of these young people that had these labels, sometimes not, sometimes just suspected or even just labelled as like a behaviour child or having behaviour difficulties. But I found that there was still these similarities in these kids. They had big characters, they tended to have brilliant senses of humour, they tended to really kind of like be curious and thinking outside of the box and questioning things, but that seemed to be getting them in trouble in the classroom. That was the thing that was their downfall, and I didn't believe it should be their downfall. So when I started A Different Human Design, I started putting together resources that explain it from this kind of non-deficit perspective. That really was my mission. So I've lived my whole life, hence I didn't know that I'd got these neurodivergence, but I always knew that I was like different. I'm left-handed. Right from starting school, teachers were always like picking me out as the kind of the different one in the class. And I basically saw life as like this opportunity to experience as many things as possible. So each year I would set myself a challenge. They were quite often physical fitness challenges. So I cycled 100 miles. I did all different types of like mud runners and things like that. And then at the start of 2023, I decided that I was going to set a different type of challenge for myself, and I challenged myself to a year with no alcohol, and that was really something quite extreme for me. I know some people don't really drink much anyway, but I really did. I loved alcohol. I kind of based my whole personality around it in a sense. Like I was the party girl, I was the fun person to be around, I was always the social butterfly. So people were like quite shocked when I said I was going to go a year without booze. But for me, it was like about challenging myself, stepping out that comfort zone. I was also fed up with feeling like I was always in pain and training and jumping off like rivers into water. And I thought, I don't want to do that anymore. I want a different type of challenge. So when I challenged myself to that a year no beer, it kind of like everything started to change. It was the same, around about the same time that I made this intention that I was gonna convert the bus. So 2021 introduced me to manifestation. I think we were just coming out of lockdown maybe by 2021, and I was really, really lost, felt directionless, didn't know what I wanted to do. And my friend gave me some coaching all around mindset and manifestation. And that was like my first kind of introduction into that way of thinking, that everything that we see in reality begins as a thought in your mind. So that was in 2021 that I was introduced to it. 2022 is when I made the promise to myself I was going to go a year no beer the next year. But I also had this intention of I'm going to get my double-decker bus, which wasn't a completely random thing. I'd always been, this is me drunk, by the way. I'm just kind of showing where I was at. You know, I was a festival chick, but I was like a very heavy drinker. I was in quite a toxic relationship and just really lost, I suppose. And I just thought to myself, what do I actually want out of life? I knew I didn't want to have kids, and I knew I didn't want to go the traditional kind of route. But I also knew if I didn't make a decision, I was just going to kind of be floating along and down the pub drinking and not really achieve anything with my life. And that was something that I wasn't going to let happen. So I sat down and I thought, what do I want to do? And this little voice was like, get your bus, get your double-decker bus. So as a kid, I just found it like a whole novelty thing. There's a staircase on the bus. It used to be smoking upstairs when I was a child as well, so we were never allowed up there. So you'd be seeing people getting on and going up to this magical layer of the bus that I wasn't allowed to go. And I always just had this kind of, I want to be a bus driver, I want to live in a bus, I want to turn a bus into a cafe. It'd always been floating around, but 2022 was when I kind of set that intention for myself. So 2023 begins, I'm not drinking, and I think around about end of January time, my brother, who I shared a house with, came to me and said, I want to sell the house. He was really thinking I was going to be upset about it. I'm now thinking, hold on a minute, I'm going to have this money all of a sudden to buy my bus and actually go ahead with this project. So for me, going back to the manifestation that I'd been introduced to, the whole thing around manifestation is to set these intentions. They're like your seeds, your wishes that you're going to sow. So I'd set this intention, and then all of a sudden, the opportunity to actually buy the bus has risen, because my brother's saying, let's sell the house. We were both going to get about 35 to 40k out of it. It wasn't enough for me to then take that money and go and put a deposit somewhere, because I wasn't earning enough as a single person to then get a mortgage. So, lots of things came into play. And the house then, it was a race to get it on the market. I've started to Google like double-decker buses and find one on eBay that I'm straight away get a good feeling over, and I'm like, oh my God, this is my bus. So it was actually about a week ago, 3 years ago, that I drove up to Scotland to view the bus and drove back in one day. So I went to view it. This is how it looked when it first was presented to me. So I don't, if any of you have been around the bus, some of you have seen it. So the front bit was still sectioned off, but you can see that bit is now my bathroom. So that bit is still in place. And again, the same at the back. I've taken that part out, but that part is still in place. So I've spotted the bus, I've found it, I've been to see it, I've put in an offer, even though I've not sold the house yet. And the guy says, yep, that's fine, I'll accept the offer, but you've got till the 1st of September to pay up. So then the race is on. It's like the end of May. So I've got June, July, August to get this house sold. Everybody's saying, you're not going to do it, you're never going to do it in time. But if you know anything about manifestation, it's very much about not allowing those thoughts to creep in, because you self-sabotage these things. Going back to the education system and my love-hate relationship with education, I very much feel that we've all been programmed from very, very young to live within limitations that have been set on us But that really isn't the case. Those limitations, they've been set by the people you've been brought up by your teachers, by your social circle, by your culture. But actually, you know, there is only abundance, and then it's the limitations that we place on ourselves. So I really started putting my intentions into practice there, and I was doing rituals. Every time there was a full moon, I was having a fire, I was releasing anything that I felt was holding me back. I was just absolutely doing anything. There's a phone call coming in on here. I don't know whether that's being picked up elsewhere. So then the house is on the market. The second person that viewed it put in an offer. Within the 8 to 10 weeks, the house sale had gone through. Like, it couldn't have gone any more to plan. So I'm very much starting to feel supported by the universe at this point. Like, my manifestation techniques are working. It's happening. So by about mid-August, I'd actually sold the house and I'd got the double-decker bus. And again, like, people say, oh, you know, where are you going to keep it to convert it? I'd not worked out all of these things. I just was going for it. And kind of keeping this mindset that it would all work its way out as and when it was supposed to. And where I worked, my lovely boss said, you know, you can keep it on the car park, you can renovate it on the car park whilst you're working for me. So, you know, that piece of the puzzle fell into place too. So by September, I'm the owner of a double-decker bus, and then suddenly I'm in charge of this project with no experience, no toolkit, like nothing other than a bus. So it was kind of like I'd achieved that first part, and then I was suddenly like, oh no. I was like looking around for the adult in the room, like who's going to tell me what to do next. So I really didn't make much of a start on it properly until 2024. I've lost my cursor. So this is my lovely mum in the background here. So it got to the start of 2024, and she was literally like, come on, I'll help you make a start on it. Me and my mum are very opposite, but we made a very, very good team. So I've got big ideas, very creative. She's very logical. So she'd be turning up with like the notes that she'd made in a phone, the research she'd done the night before. And we just really cracked on with it. I was just talking to somebody else in the field that we'd turn up with a job that we wanted to do, one job, and then before we could even get to that job, there'd be 50 problems that we hadn't even anticipated. And then 3 days later, you're still dealing with those issues and not got to that thing yet. And oh my gosh, but without this manifestation, understanding and the mindset, I could have easily self-sabotaged that project, because the voices in the back of my mind that were like, you know, you're an idiot, you've took on more than you can cope with, this isn't going to work. I was really having to counteract those and say, no, I've got this. You know, other people can do it, I can do it. There is no reason why this should fail, I can do it. So it was very much putting in that mindset work as well as the physical conversion work. In fact, 2024, we'd even been invited to a festival in the bus, and I actually thought it was going to be Reddit. I just had no idea how big this project was. And if I'd have known, I probably never would have started it. I'll be honest. So when people ask about how does the ADHD and the bus life mix in, I'm like, well, I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't ADHD, because I'd have thought it through and thought, no, that's far too much work. But as it happens, I have a really strong sense of self-belief, and that's the thing that tends to get me through. And I saw that in my students as well. You know, before the school system got to them, they'd got this spark, this fire in their belly, and it tends to be those kids that go on to change the world. So that's where my passion comes in, with trying to educate people around the way their brain works as well. So in fact, just going back to the end of 2024, my lovely friends had convinced me to try skating. And I fell over when I was skating and fractured my wrist. And that meant that I had to move into the bus because I couldn't drive to work anymore with my cast on. So I moved into the bus even though it wasn't complete. And that made me realise that I could actually live in it, that it was livable. So then I started to make the plan that at the start of 2025, I would move into the bus. And that actually really helped me get it finished, because I was there all of the time. So the start of 2025 was a really magical moment for me, because I'd gone from being a heavy drinker, really suffering with my mental health, being in this toxic relationship. This was all in 2022, feeling directionless. You know, I knew that I didn't want the traditional life, but I didn't know what I wanted. Just 2 years later, I no longer drink. I'd kicked the toxic boyfriend to the curb. I'd got the bus. I was living in the bus. It was just like everything had changed, absolutely everything. But then that inspired me even more to continue with my work of showing people if I can do it, anybody can do whatever dream it is they want to achieve, because nothing stands in the way except for your own barriers that you're putting in the way. And even like, you know, I started out this saying I want a double-decker bus. I'd not got a penny to my name, nothing. But then somehow the pieces of the puzzle kept falling into place. So it is very much about trusting that it will happen for you. So 2025, I moved in at the start. By the end of May, so pretty much 1 year ago, I was on the road in the bus. I had to do a HGV driving course to get my Class C driving licence to be able to drive it. And I'm very, very spiritual, so I'm always talking to the unseen. And I don't claim to know the answers or to know that something's there, but I'm very aware that something's operating in the background, because just like the signs, the synchronicities, like I don't believe in coincidences, but the way things have panned out for me on this journey have been like, you couldn't have made it up. It is literally like the Truman Show. Like somebody is writing this story and I am the main joke in this story. So in May of 2025, I'm saying to my unseen team, please, I want to be the best bus driver that the world has ever seen, and I need your help to do it, because I did not want to be feeling anxious every time I've got to drive the bus. I wanted to be enjoying it, you know, but the thought of taking it on the road was terrifying me. And the first time I took it out on a big drive, the two things I was scared about was roundabouts and reversing. The first drive, I swear, 20 roundabouts, one after the other, but by the time I'd done them, I'm thinking, oh, I'm a pro at this now. These roundabouts are absolutely fine. And then I get to my final destination on that first big drive, which was my dad's house in Lincolnshire. He'd not long bought it. So I'd only been there once, I think, in the car. So as I'm approaching with the bus, I'm realising the road's not wide enough to get the swing into the gate. So as I'm thinking, oh, I'm just going to park up here, then I'll just stay here. I'll stay on the pavement, it's fine. A farmer's come along and he's gone, oh, she'll be fine. She just needs to turn around, come back down and reverse it in. And it was like, oh my God, all my fears are like coming true on this journey, which you could see as, why is this happening to me? You know, why the things that I'm scared of you've given to me, you're trying to punish me. But on reflection, it was all about giving me the opportunity to practice the things I was scared of. I'd asked to be the best bus driver. Well, you don't become the best at anything without failure and practice and trying. So it was like they were giving me these obstacles to overcome, to build my confidence, so that then I'd be able to like feel more confident when I was doing it. And that's exactly what happened. So I was like, come on team, you know, you've all got to help me through this. And I swear I could feel like this invisible force of support around me as I've like reversed in, nailed it. I'm crying, my stepmom's crying, my sister's like, what are you crying for, you weirdos? And then from then on, over that summer, going to different festivals and things, there was a few times that I had to pull off a really tricky reversing manoeuvre, but I felt so supported because I'd already done that and knew that I was capable. So again, my message is very much, you know, take the things that happen to us are there to like strengthen us for the next thing. So quite often we want great things and we want this big dream, but it is going to be hard work to get there. And it may well feel like they're trying to put you off and things like that. But really it's just the opportunity to actually build the resilience that you're going to need to get to that next stage. So then after all of that calamity, there was a couple of festivals throughout 2025 that was really successful. And then at the end of that year, I didn't really have anywhere to go with the bus, but again, it panned out and I ended up back in my original spot for over the winter. That's when it made me realise that this bus life was becoming this life of duality, because it was like on the road was very, very different when I was parked up, but I loved both ends of the spectrum. And for me, that's quite a novelty seeking brain. It was brilliant. It's like, you know, changing constantly. It's like having multiple lives that are all happening in the same year. So I had the best winter of my life, even though it was absolutely freezing. I've got a log burner on there, so I just kind of moved everything downstairs and lived from downstairs. And then we get to the start of 2026. I'm feeling really confident now. I had quite a few either invitations to festivals or I'd applied to attend festivals and had positive feedback. So I was feeling like, you know, everything is falling into place. This is great. And then about 6 to 8 weeks ago, I was meant to be at an event mid-April and the bus just decided just not to start. It had started 2 days before, everything was fine, and then all of a sudden it was just like, there was just nothing happening. It was completely dead. So I just thought, I knew that there was a problem with my battery connector. So I was like, oh, it's just a connection problem, it's fine. So I didn't take it to the event because I was organising this event anyway. So I went and did the event without the bus. Came back, thought that the problem would be fixed, and it just wasn't. It just started going further, weeks and weeks and weeks. I'm having people coming out and looking, nobody can find the problem, and I'm really starting to like question everything at this point. So I just did what I know best and just put my faith in the universe and said, right, so I'm thinking in my head, maybe the festival season's not meant to go ahead. You know, maybe the universe knows something I don't. So I just kind of trusted the process and said, what will be, will be. I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep trying to find what this problem is, but I've got this deadline, which was this festival that I wanted to be sorted by. And if it's sorted, I'll do the festivals. And if it's not, then, you know, so be it. I'll assume that that's the way it's meant to go. But as I said before, these obstacles are definitely there to kind of train you for the next circumstances. So I kind of felt like I've got to show the universe that I actually want this now. If I do really want it, then I've got to put the work in. And my intuition said, you're going to have a photo finish. You're going to be driving to that festival on the day you're meant to arrive with a kind of like, that was close type thing. Well, the festival's Wednesday. I'd got an MOT booked in for the week before, but at this point, nobody's still got the bus running. So I've moved the MOT. The only time they had free was the Wednesday that I was meant to be leaving for the festival. So this photo finish is lining up, and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, like it was the not knowing that was exhausting me, like not knowing if I'm going to the festival season or not. And then I just lost all hope. So we felt like we'd exhausted every single option. I'd like sent things off for testing. I'd had engineers coming out, you know, some of the best in the area as well. Like they're scratching their heads and I'm thinking, fair enough, you know, maybe I'm just not meant to be doing this then. And the Friday before, me and my friend who's a HGV mechanic were stood outside this bus garage where my MOT was going to take place, but they're no longer doing repairs. They're like, we're a mechanic down, we can't do any repairs, we can only do the MOT. And me and my friend are just looking at each other like, well, I really think that's it. Like, there's no other option to exhaust. We've done everything we can. Like, the only other option now is for me to get it towed to my dad's, the original place with the reverse and into the gate. And as we stood there, this mechanic comes walking around and he was like, are you staying there? Like, pointing to the car. We were like, no, we're moving it now. And he's like, you're coming for your MOT next week? I was like, I don't think so. Like, I can't get the bus running. And he was like, have you been down to the Confidence bus garage? He was like, go down there, give me the name of the mechanic to speak to. He's like, tell them that I've sent you. He's like, he doesn't do visits, but he might be able to give you a pointer. So we're like, okay, this is like the last ditch attempt now. We'll go, you know, we may as well try it. So we've gone down there. The guy's agreed to come out and look. He's like, I'll come and look at it for you. And he's come the next day after work and bought a big box of like spares, which he's then started swapping over because he's got a fleet of buses. And all of a sudden the bus has burst into life and the errors that were coming up have like disappeared. And I'm like, I didn't dare believe it. You know, it's actually sorted itself out. So that was on the Friday. And I'm thinking, okay, so the engine's running, but the MOT's not till Wednesday. Where's the photo finish part going to happen? Because this is settled now. I've got 3 or 4 days, get the bus cleaned, get it all prepared, ready for festival season. So I take it in for its MOT, 10 o'clock Wednesday morning, and he fails it on a number of things that he's like, if you can get them sorted by the end of the day, I'll retest you, and then you can go off to your festival. So I'm like, I can't take any more. I literally can't take any more. So my poor friend, long-suffering friend who's been with me all week trying to help me, he comes, he picks me up, takes me to a few specialists. We managed to get the parts. We're like, drive it. By this point, I'm like, I daren't even believe that it's going to happen. But in my heart of hearts, I knew it was going to now because I'm like, this is the photo finish that I could see coming all along. We got the parts fitted. The guy comes, he checks it. He says, it's a pass. You can go off on your festival now. So I was driving here literally a few hours after I was meant to be arriving, just thinking, I cannot believe it. But I'm also really not prepared, because in my head, I had no idea if it was going to happen. And the way my brain works, it kind of kicks into gear on the day of something. I can't really kind of work for the future. I find that really hard. So here I am. I have got a presentation. I'm proud of myself that I've got a presentation. But this trust the process really is my kind of final message, that whatever the dream is, like lots of people say, oh, would you recommend doing the bus thing? And I'm like, only if it's your dream, because it's really, really hard, you know, because it was my dream. That's what got me through. If it had just been a bit of a whim, I'd have like parked it and changed it a long, long time ago. So my message really very much is, whatever that thing is that you've been thinking about doing, it doesn't have to be something massive. Just believe that the universe, like the fortune favors the brave. And I do really stand by that, you know, if you take that leap, something will show up to kind of help you get to the next stage. And also just remembering that it's not rejection, it's redirection. So another little story, when I got off site May last year, I'd rung every campsite in my area. I just thought it'd be that easy, that, you know, a campsite was a campsite, that anything on wheels can go and stay there. But every single one was turning me down, didn't want a bus there for whatever reason. And I was like really, really scared then, and like, what am I going to do? But it forced me into doing lay-by living, and like a kind of alternative way of doing it. So had those campsites allowed me on, I wouldn't have gone out of my comfort zone and done the lay-by thing, which wouldn't have made me realise that that's actually a possibility. So again, something can feel so catastrophic in the time, as though, you know, it's trying to force me off track, but quite often it's just trying to help you stay on track in the long run. It might be like giving you a situation to develop that you're going to come across in the future, and you'll know how to deal with it. So it is all rigged in my favour is something that I like to tell myself every day, even when things don't feel like it is all rigged in my favour. And I created this little book, Moons, Magic and Manifestations, that talks through the journey of converting the bus, but also shares the rituals and the mindset tips and tools that I used throughout that to keep me sane and to keep me kind of focused and on track. And the feedback's been really lovely, actually. It's pushed me further to continue with this kind of like approach, that it might sound a little bit woo-woo, but last year, so June 21st was the summer solstice, which is all about like everything all coming together, all the labour and the fruits if you reward abundance. And I won an award for the bus on that day. And then this year it's full moon today. So that's all about completion and celebrating what you've achieved. And I just feel like the whole bus project for the last 6 weeks was so kind of like, is it going to happen? And yet here I am doing the talk as planned on full moon. So it's like really something to celebrate in my mind. And it's everything kind of has followed these little cycles and these little patterns. So that's what the book's all about. I've put a copy of it in. Whoever wins the raffle thing now will get a copy of it, but it is available on Amazon as well. Steph and I do a podcast that's available on YouTube. We go live every Wednesday, but we talk about all sorts of different mindset things, spirituality, ADHD, autism. It's live on purpose so that you can come on and you can chat with us. If you are like looking for support and things like that, you can ask us questions. And my TikTok, I've put my TikTok on there because I've started to earn on that now. So if anybody is on TikTok, please do follow me and I'll follow you back. Does anyone have any questions at all?
One thing I'll just mention, you mentioned the full moon and the blue moon, which is tonight.
Yes.
At 9:30 in the Field of Dreams, we're doing a appreciation of the blue moon.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's going to be round about the 5 o'clock. Cara's coming up from the Holistics.
Brilliant.
There is a little leaflet at the back of the room here. So that's 9:30.
Oh, I'll be there at 9:30. So for those that don't know, blue moon's when we have 2 full moons within 1 month, and that is happening this month. So this is the second full moon that we've seen in May. So that's why it feels extra special. Yeah, definitely. Any questions from anyone? Go on.
Do you have a next project, small or big, in any kind of way?
So I'm gonna focus on the festival season for this year. So I've got got loads of festivals booked for the rest of this season. So sometimes I'm showing like as a quirky conversion. Sometimes I'm turning up and we're doing the neurodivergent stuff and the mindset stuff. But after the season, I am going to be really looking at what I want to do next. Because I'm kind of considering maybe a micro camper or something to like go off and explore in. Just because like, obviously I've gone big first. You know, like when you're driving along, sometimes you spot like a little side street and you think, oh, I'd love to go down there, see what's down there. So maybe something smaller, I'm going to go the opposite way.
Smart car.
Yeah, smart car would be brilliant, yeah. I've seen one of them in the Field of Dreams, yeah, wicked. Any other questions? Go on.
How much did the bus cost you, and what was the total of your
The build.
build?
Yeah. So the bus cost me 18,000 for the actual bus, which, as buses go, was expensive. I'd been looking at buses on and off for years, and they, you know, tended to be anything between 6 and 10 kind of thousand. So it was expensive, but it's an ex-London Metropolitan Police Service bus. So it had never been in public service, really low mileage. It had always been like looked after. And it was already gutted, as in like it was open. I hadn't got to rip all the seats out, so that was yeah, a bit of a push to pay a bit extra. Go on, so it's
I was just interested in how the sort of literally you walk in, it feels like you've got a mobile library.
Yeah,
I was kind of
yeah.
interested in how that happened. Do you just like books?
yeah, basically. I've just realised the full build cost, was about 55,000, including the cost of the bus. Yeah, and that is including my. The insurance, which was 5,000 for the first year, which was quite expensive, and that's why I shaved my head at the start of this year to help me pay for it this year. I don't know what I'm going to do next year. I've not got like anything else, but and then that also included the £2,000 for the licence as well. But yeah, sorry, coming back to the library question. So I love books and I love buses, and then I just thought, why don't I do a book bus? Because when I was at school, the book buses used to come round, and then in my area, like my local library closed down, and I've always had like a connection to libraries because my grandma used to take me to libraries, and it was like, I've got a real nostalgia thing. So I just thought, actually, the initial idea for the project was to kind of be able to take it to places that their library had closed down, where they've not got access to literacy, you know, that kind, with having the teaching background and the passion for learning as well. It all kind of came together. But what I found so far is the festivals have been the more popular bookings, and Vanlifers tend to like reading and have got 3 or 4 books on their vans that they've read 15 times. Well, now they can swap them, you know, when they're on a field. So that was the idea behind that. You have a question?
Who did the actual conversion work? Who did you get to do the physical, like, changing of the interior and all that?
So initially,
Installing your fire and that?
yeah, so the fire was installed between my dad and my stepdad. They helped me out with those bits, and I got somebody in to do the electrics, and then I had a bit of help with the shelves downstairs, like the carpenter come and help me, because obviously with the bookshelves and stuff.
These are all friends of yours?
Yeah, like friends, connections, things like that. But me and my mum did a majority of the work between us. With like my mum's
With no experience?
yeah, exactly. I mean,
Wow.
my mum's really handy with her DIY. She's always been the DIY person in the house. And my granddad's really handy. So we were both brought up, her by her dad, me by my granddad, doing bits and bobs.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like, I'm really academic. So at school, I was just pushed down the academic route, but I'd forgotten how hands-on I actually am. Like, I love being hands-on. I love finding solutions for the issues. And so once I started, I was really, like, picked it up really quick. Like, I can whip up a bit of furniture now. Like, yeah, like, my skill set's growing. I've got a toolkit now and all. So yeah, we got there in the end, but this is why, again, I very much push that if you've got a dream...
I would imagine that if people find that quite daunting, you know, to do a conversion off their own back when they've never had any experience in doing a conversion.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
like,
the electrics,
but the great thing is you've got YouTube, you've got stuff back in the day, it must have been a lot harder. But now there's like pretty much a video on everything that you want to know. And don't get me wrong, if I'd with all the knowledge now, if I'd started the project again, I'm sure it would have been more efficient, and, you know, perhaps I'd have done things a little bit like differently, but we just literally made it up as we went along, and we got there in the end.
You're £18,000 deep now.
Yeah, like, I can't stop now.
Did
Anyone else got any questions? Go on.
you see yourself ever, whether it's a bus or anything else, would you go back to a bricks and mortar?
I actually couldn't see that. No, I mean maybe like a temporary short stop. I don't know, but considering that I'd never done festivals till I was in my mid-20s. I'd always done it in tents, so I went from a tent to a bus. It was like a real jump. Like we was in a festival the year before, like 3 of us and a dog in one teepee tent.
I remember that.
yeah. And it's like, you know, all that stuff. I don't know how we did it now. Like the buses feels like luxury in comparison, but it feels very like this is how I'm meant to be living. So yeah, I think I'll always be in a van. What did you want to ask?
Yeah, do you still work in education?
So up until May half term, so I've literally kind of left my job in education and then come straight on the road. So I do some online tutoring, which I'll continue to do. But my stance on education is I feel like such a hypocrite plugging a system that I genuinely don't believe in. And I've never, even when I've been tutoring and teaching, I've never pretended to believe in it. I've always had this attitude of you've got to do this because these are the hoops we've got to jump through, and then these are the things I think might be helpful. So I've always been really clear with my students, which is I think why they've respected me and I've been good at what I do. So I do want to carry on with like welfare, mental health, resilience building, mindset. But in terms of the education system, if you follow my socials, I'm going to start talking way more openly about the actual downfalls and the negatives, and using my position to share awareness a little bit more on that, because before it was kind of like you lose your job if you speak out. That's how they keep the system being as toxic as it is, because the teachers have either got to, like, they're either that fed up they leave and go into a different job, or they have to shut up and put up because that's how they're earning the money at the end of the day.
For mental health and have to leave anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the quickest profession that people are leaving at the minute, unfortunately. Yeah, it is very pressurised job. Anyone? Go on. Sorry.
When do you answer people when they ask, what do you do in life now?
I'm winging it right now, so I've got about, I'm raising the vibe of humanity, but no one's paying me to do that, unfortunately. So I've got about 5 weeks until the money runs out and the luck hopefully doesn't run out. So, but in all seriousness, come September, when my festival season's over, I know that people are kind of offering me little like a day here, working in this educational setting here and stuff like that. So I'll cherry pick and I'll do what I need to do to get by. But I really want to build my online tutoring, mentoring, coaching, anybody that's like needs to access something of an alternative approach. I'm going to start pushing that. Do you have a question? Yeah, exactly. This is the thing.
Going into our lawyers changed my life.
Yeah.
About my ADHD, that's what this morning about the 9.
Perfect.
It's made me such a different person.
I do think a lot of people that seek out alternative, like festivals and things like that, we're all kind of outside of that, the mainstream, as it were. You know, everyone's a little bit more open-minded, and which is great. I love it. Do you have a question?
I was going to say, what's something that surprised you about van life and this community?
Do you know what probably has surprised me the most is driving a bus. I thought, because when I drive a car, as a female driving a car, I get so much aggression for anything and everything. No one lets you in. It's like, it just feels like everyone's trying to physically run you off the road. So I was quite scared about that going into a bus. Like my granddad was, I mean, I look like a boy now, I know it's fine, but my granddad was like, tuck your hair up into your hat so that people think you're a man. And I was like, but I shouldn't have to do that. But it actually hasn't been a problem whatsoever. Like, if anything, people are like waving at me, and you know, the minute I try and do a manoeuvre, everyone's getting out the way because no one's arguing with a big bus. So I actually prefer driving my bus. yeah, that's probably what I have. No spatial awareness, you know when people go, oh, you could get a bus through that, and I'm in a car, I'm like, I've actually got a bus, and they think I'm just like being sarcastic. Yeah, like, I know. Yeah, I've tried. So yeah, the surprising thing's probably been how much I've actually loved driving the bus after all that. Yeah.
I have to agree with that. It is an experience.
I know we have another ex-bus dweller here, which is great.
It's an experience.
Can you describe when you've been in the bus at some point, when you've just had one of those, like, I'm in exactly the right place at the right time, at the moment?
Yeah. Well, gosh, there's so many times where something has happened and it's felt so you can't ignore it because it's like such an obvious sign. But even just for example, I've got 3 sisters. One's on the other side, so one's my spirit guide, but they're called Millie, Winnie, and Lottie. And yesterday, or the day before, I said, I've heard both the name Millie and Winnie yesterday. I just need to hear the name Lottie. And then literally within the hour, a little girl came out of the bus and said, oh, have you got a book? And she turned it around. It was called The Lottie Project. And it's just like stuff like that happens all the time where I feel very like, okay, this is the little sign that I need, that I'm on the right path. Everyone, yeah? Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you all for coming.